When she starts to feel that she might actually lose you, something inside her shifts. But it doesn't show up in the way you might expect. She doesn't just come out and say it. Instead, she begins to recreate moments that feel familiar, moments that once made her feel emotionally close to you. She might bring up an inside joke from months ago, casually mention a place you once went together, or suddenly comment on a topic she never used to care about, but knows you do. These small gestures might seem insignificant on the surface, but beneath them is a quiet attempt to reconnect, to rebuild the emotional thread that she senses is beginning to unravel. It's not direct, because directness would mean vulnerability, and vulnerability requires lowering the guard she's kept up for so long. So instead, she reaches for emotional closeness in subtle, almost invisible ways. Maybe she sends you a photo that reminds her of something you both shared, or maybe she randomly replies to an old message thread with something lighthearted. That's not coincidence. That's a fear response disguised as nostalgia. It's her way of asking, do you still remember what we had, without risking the shame of being the one who reaches out first. What's more important than what she says is the timing of when she says it. These little reconnection attempts usually don't happen when she's confident or moving on. They appear when silence becomes too loud, when your absence starts echoing louder than your presence ever did. That's when her pride begins to wrestle with her emotions, and the result is this cautious re-entry into your emotional world. She's not ready to admit she needs you, but she needs to feel that some part of what you shared still exists. You'll see it in the way she watches for your reaction. Did you laugh at her message? Did you respond quickly or not at all? Every detail becomes a signal to her. She's trying to determine if the door is still open or if it's already closed. And this uncertainty fuels her subtle efforts to draw you in without making it obvious. Because as much as she fears rejection, she fears complete disconnection even more. The truth is, when a woman starts to feel she's truly losing you, she doesn't always chase you with grand gestures. More often, she tries to pull you back into connection with the very things that once made you feel close. And if you look closely, you'll realize she's not just revisiting memories. She's trying to bring them back to life before they slip away completely. There's a difference between being strong and pretending to be. And when she starts to feel like she's losing you for real, the independence she once wore like armor begins to lose its weight. It starts to feel more like a performance than peace. She'll continue to post things that say, I'm doing fine, and maybe she'll even double down on her routines, keeping busy, hanging out with friends, chasing goals. But internally, it's not as stable as it looks. That outer display of strength is now just a shield against a growing inner chaos she's not ready to face. It's not that she doesn't value her independence, she does, but what's changed is the reason behind it. Before, her solitude might have been fulfilling, empowering even, but now it's more about distraction. She's not being alone because she's content. She's being alone so she doesn't have to confront the emptiness that's creeping in. That shift is critical. You can see it in her energy. The laughter's a little more forced, the silence a little more tired, and the silence a little more frequent. She'll act like she's moved on, that you no longer have any emotional weight in her life, but behind that posture is a mind replaying what went wrong. Not just what you did, but what she said, what she didn't say, and where she might have overplayed her hand. The stronger she acts on the outside, the more fragile she often feels within. And this disconnect between how she presents herself to the world and how she actually feels is exhausting. Eventually, even she starts to feel the strain of pretending. This is why her energy changes. She may stop texting altogether, not because she doesn't care, but because she's trying to maintain an illusion of indifference. But indifference doesn't need effort. And when you're putting effort into looking like you don't care, that alone reveals the truth. She's not indifferent. She's afraid that maybe you're done trying, that maybe you finally took her silence at face value and chose to walk away for good. And that thought, that's what haunts her most. So she holds on to this image of strength, hoping it'll protect her from the pain of vulnerability. But deep down, she knows it's just a mask. Because real independence doesn't need to prove itself, it just is. And if she's trying this hard to show she's over you, chances are she's not even close. When a woman begins to feel that she's losing you, one of the first things she does, often without realizing it, is start monitoring your attention. Not in a bold or confrontational way. It's subtle, quiet, strategic. She starts noticing things she used to ignore. Did you view her story? Are you still following her updates? Did you like that last post, or did you scroll past it like she's no longer part of your world? These become emotional markers for her. Small signals that help her determine if she still matters to you. She doesn't have to say a word. All she needs is data confirmation that you're still paying attention, and if you are, she takes a breath of relief. It reassures her that even though you're silent, you haven't fully detached, that maybe there's still a thread, thin as it may be, connecting the two of you. But if your attention vanishes entirely, it shakes her, because that's when she starts to question everything she thought she had control over. You see, attention from someone who used to care holds weight. It's not about ego, not really. It's about emotional validation. She wants to know that even though you've gone quiet, you're not completely gone, because complete silence feels like finality. It feels like being forgotten. And for someone who once felt emotionally significant in your life, that's an incredibly hard thing to sit with. That's what drives her to keep checking, not because she's obsessed, but because she's uncertain. She's unsure whether your quiet is strength or indifference, whether it's temporary or forever. And in the space of that uncertainty, she becomes more reactive. Maybe she starts posting more, not because she wants to, but because she wants to trigger a response. She's not sharing for the world anymore. She's sharing for you, hoping something, anything, might catch your eye, that you'll remember her, that you'll engage, that you'll come back, even if just for a moment. Because your silence isn't just absence, it's power, and she feels it. So while she's telling herself she's fine, that she doesn't care, that she's moved on, her actions say otherwise. Her watchfulness says otherwise. When she begins to observe your behavior more closely than ever before, it's not because she's detached. It's because she's desperate to know that you haven't detached either. And if your attention is gone, then the thing she never wanted to admit becomes undeniable. She's not just losing you, she's already lost. There comes a moment, often quietly and without warning, when her emotional armor begins to crack. Not all at once, not in some dramatic outburst, but in brief, fleeting moments that reveal more than she ever intended. And that's when you begin to notice something shifting, a message that carries a different tone, softer than usual, a pause in her words where confidence used to be, a look in her eyes that doesn't match the strong front she's been holding on to. That's not weakness. That's vulnerability slipping through, and it usually means she's starting to feel the weight of your absence. See, for a while she can act detached. She can act like she's too busy, too strong, too self-assured to feel the effects of distance. But when it starts to sink in that this silence between you isn't temporary, that it might actually be the new reality, her instinct to protect herself from pain starts to falter. And in those unguarded moments, she lets something real come through. It's not always direct. In fact, it's rarely obvious. But if you're paying attention, you'll feel it. She might say something that hints at regret, or maybe she reminisces on something you both shared, then quickly pulls back. That hesitation is key. It shows she's trying to navigate the conflict between pride and longing. Her pride tells her not to show she misses you. Her longing says otherwise. And when those two collide, you get a version of her that's raw, that's real, even if only for a second. This doesn't mean she's ready to admit how she feels. In many cases, she still won't say it out loud. But she'll show it in the way her tone changes, in the quiet cracks in her emotional defense. And it's in those cracks that the truth lives, that she hasn't let go, that something inside her still hopes this isn't the end. But this part is fragile, because if she senses rejection or indifference when she lets that vulnerability show, she'll retreat even deeper. She'll reinforce the walls she just began to lower. So she tests the waters, carefully, indirectly, and how you respond or don't plays a huge role in what happens next. When a woman is afraid she's losing you forever, she won't always say it, but she will show it quietly, emotionally, and without her usual defenses. And if you notice those moments, you'll see that what she truly fears isn't the silence, It's the possibility that you've stopped caring altogether. When she begins to sense that you've stopped trying, something subtle but powerful shifts inside her. At first, she might act like she doesn't notice. She'll brush it off, distract herself, convince herself that you pulling back is just temporary, or maybe even something she wanted. But over time, that silence grows louder, and not just in the space between messages or calls, it echoes inside her, in all the places where your presence used to be consistent. That stillness begins to challenge the story she's been telling herself, that she could walk away and feel nothing. It's one thing for her to distance herself while believing you'll still be there, still watching, still caring. That gives her a sense of control, like she's setting the pace. But when your effort fades, when you no longer initiate, when you no longer reach out just to check in or offer something simple and kind, she starts to feel the ground beneath her shift. And that's when confusion creeps in, because now it's not just about missing you, it's about questioning her own assumptions. She starts asking herself if she misread how much you cared, or worse, if maybe she pushed you too far. There's a strange power in your silence when it comes from a place of calm detachment, not out of bitterness, not to manipulate, but simply because you've accepted that you can't keep trying for someone who isn't meeting you halfway. That kind of withdrawal is felt deeply. It's not angry, it's not dramatic, it just is. And it speaks volumes. It tells her that your energy isn't available indefinitely, that your care was real, but not endless. That at some point you stopped showing up for her the way she expected, and that haunts her far more than any confrontation ever could. She'll replay old conversations. She'll revisit the moments when you were the one who reached out first, who cared more, who gave her the space to feel wanted. And as that pattern reverses, she's left with a gnawing realization. She thought she could hold back forever and you'd still be there. But now you're not. And that space, it feels colder than she imagined. What she comes to understand, slowly and painfully, is that your absence was never the punishment, it was the boundary. And once she feels that for long enough, she doesn't just notice the loss, she starts to regret the silence she thought would protect her. Eventually, when the silence becomes too real and too prolonged, something inside her begins to unravel. Not in a dramatic collapse, but in a gradual erosion of the story she's been trying to hold on to, that she's fine without you, that it doesn't matter anymore, that she's moved on. Because the truth is, no one truly stays unaffected when someone they once cared deeply for stops reaching out, stops trying, stops showing up in the ways they always had. That absence doesn't just linger, it starts to pierce through the walls she built to stay in control. At first, she convinces herself it's all going according to plan, that by not showing emotion, by pretending to be unbothered, she somehow has the upper hand. But time has a way of revealing what pride tries to cover up. And after enough days, enough missed calls that never come, enough empty moments that used to be filled by your voice or your effort, she feels it deeply, undeniably. It starts as restlessness. She can't focus like she used to. Little reminders of you start slipping through the cracks. An old picture, a place you once went together, a phrase you always said. It hits her when she least expects it. That's when the pretending starts to wear her down. Because what used to be a deliberate act of indifference is now just exhausting. Holding back takes energy. Acting like she doesn't care takes effort. And eventually that energy runs out. She may begin to overthink, replaying every moment of your withdrawal, looking for signs, for explanations, for proof that you still care, or that you might come back. But the longer the silence continues, the more she realizes something painful. She didn't expect it to go this far. She didn't expect you to actually stop, and that realization haunts her. What breaks her isn't your anger, it's your peace. Your calm absence. The space you created when you stopped chasing, when you stopped showing up out of habit, when you chose your dignity over desperation. That's what lingers with her. That's what makes her wonder late at night if she made the right choice, if she held back too long, if maybe, just maybe, she underestimated what you meant to her. And that's the part that keeps her up the most. Not knowing where she stands anymore, not knowing if she could still fix it, even if she tried. Because when a woman realizes she might have lost a man who truly cared, not because he gave up, but because he finally chose to stop waiting, that's the regret she never prepared for.